We have brought yet again another giant of our own to deliver this. We're in the month of March, and there is no better time really to bring a woman. Nkata is also a very inclusive discussion or event or program, because we've not just tried to balance, the gender that speak to us at these events. March in itself is a very significant month for a reason we all know. We're celebrating the International Women's Day, and there is no one better suited to drive our conversation today and in this month than the person that we've brought to lead this conversation. And as we know, this comes in two parts. The lecture itself, the keynote speech, which is followed by the moderated panel session, and then the interactive session where people ask their questions, and finally the evening wraps up with meet and greet. So I will invite the director of the Center for Memories, Mr. Nwanyị Iboko, to officially welcome you and give the opening remarks for this event. Mr. Nwanyị will talk to us about the Center for Memories, what we do in greater detail, as well as Nkata itself, what Nkata means to us, and why the center makes the effort time and again to bring this event to all of you. So please, with a round of applause, can we have the director of the center, Mr. Nwanyị Iboko? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. In day one, Prof Ezeilo, day one. I and like Anwale mentioned in the introductory, that Nkata is so important to us, Igbo. Maka na ebe anyị na-abịa akpa anyị gbasatara ndị Igbo ka anyị si akpa ka obodo ga-esi wee dị mma. Ọnwa ọbụla anyị na-achọ ofu onye na-arụ ọrụ pụrụ iche anyị ga-akpọbata ka ọ kọọrọ anyị, ọ ka ọ kụziere anyị, ọ ka anyị na-akpa ọbụbọ ihe anyị ga-eme ka ihe na-adịrọ n'obodo anyị, onye anyị chọrọ ịfụ n'obodo anyị ka eme ya ka ọ mee gịnị ka ọ dị. So tata anyị kpọrọ a giant. I think she's a colossus. Is a woman that represents a lot of things for us, a woman all of us look up to, a woman that inspires all of us. And my board has also asked me to extend their regards to you. They would have been here, but unfortunately they are not. And we bring that greetings to you, Prof. And na yokuno, amam nobro num kunchorino, no Prof kunchorino. One thing that we Center for Memories, the Nkata Umu Ibe, every first Friday of the month. But beyond that, there are other programs the center name. Nkata Umu Ibe maka ndị okenye. Anyị nwere nzukọ ụmụaka. Anyị na-enwe every last Saturday of the month. Ebe akwa. Anyị nwekwa book clubs. Nwekwa ihe ndị ọzọ dị iche iche. Ọ bụrụ ụmụaka unu ga-anụ ni very soon. I know Anwale will invite the Prof to take the stage and share with us everything she has prepared for us. So, Prof, I thank you once again. I know it wasn't easy to get you here, but I'm glad that you finally made it. So thank you so much. And I enjoy everybody to relax and enjoy, because already Prof. So enjoy whatever she's going to share with you. And have a lovely evening.
It's important to note that it took us a lot to bring Prof here. In fact, we've been trying since last year, and we cannot tell you how excited we are to have, finally concluded that arrangement and to have been able to bring her here. It's really an honor, a privilege, I would say. Of course, when we put events together, we don't just do it alone. The center does not, exist in isolation. We have partners, we have collaborators, we have supporters. And it has always been that way from within the staff, base, the staff community, to our volunteers, to official partners like the Ford Foundation, which is the sponsor or the funders of Nkata Umu Ibe as an exclusive program of the center. to Urban Radio. Urban Radio has always been a partner of the Center for Memories. Usually when we have Nkata, so our speakers, have a media tour where they've in Urban Radio to talk a bit about the issue or the topic of the day, and then, the lecture follows. So Urban Radio, Afia TV, of course, Afia TV is also guaranteeing the live coverage. It's live streamed, and there is also the National Young Professionals Forum, which has also and always been a partner. So it's important to note that when we have events, we don't just do them alone. It's through the support and partnership of these strong institutions and individuals that we successfully carry out what we do. So at this juncture, I will invite the Center for Memories Programs Officer, Ifeoma Namani, to read a citation of Professor Joy Ezeilo. Ifeoma, please. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's such an incredible honor to be called to read the citation for Professor Joy Ezeilo. I feel so unqualified, right? To be the one to do such an incredible task. But ndị Igbo si na ọkụ agụnye nwata n'aka ada erebuya. So I've been giving that and I'll try to that. So this is a citation of Professor Joy Ngozi Ezeilo, San OON. Joy Ngozi Ezeilo is a distinguished law professor, senior advocate of Nigeria, and a life bencher with over 30 years of professional experience and expertise in international law, human rights, criminal law, comparative constitution, gender, and governance. She is Emerita Dean of Law at the University of Nigeria. Professor Ezeilo holds a PhD, LLM, LLB, BL, and Diploma in Peace and Conflict Resolution. Between 2008 and 2014, she served as the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Trafficking in Persons. She has received numerous national and international accolades, including the Nigerian Government's Officer of the Order of Niger, OAN, in 2006 by the then President Olusegun Obasanjo, in recognition of her outstanding contributions in the area of nation building, legal scholarship, advocacy, civil society movement, and community service. In 2002, the BBC listed Professor Joy Ezeilo as one of the 100 women of impact worldwide. The United Nations Human Rights Council appointed Professor Ezeilo in December 2023 as one of the 3 expert members of the Independent International Fact-Finding Mission on Sudan. Please, can we just appreciate her, please? Thank you. That's all right. Professor Ezeilo San pioneered the teaching of women, children, and the law in 1997, including developing a curriculum for the education of human rights, health law, and reproductive rights in Nigerian universities, and a sexual harassment policy for educational institutions and workplaces. As a scholar, feminist, and activist, Professor Ezeilo has published extensively in her field of specialization and worked in over 120 countries worldwide, delivering public lectures and organizing and participating in conferences and workshops. Joy Ngozi Ezeilo is a visiting professor at several universities, including a fellow in residence at the University of California, Irvine, 1999, and a regent professor at the University of California, Riverside, 2001. She has served as a member of the United Nations Civil Society Advisory Board on Prevention of Sexual Exploitation and Abuse, February 2019 to February 2021, and a board member of the UN Trust Fund for Victims of Trafficking, 2013 to 2016. She is the founder of Women Aid Collective, WACO, and Tamasak, which collectively have provided in the last 26 years over 62,000 free legal aid to women and children in difficult circumstances, including victims and survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. Professor Ezeilo has served as a consultant/trainer to many international and national organizations, including the UNDP, UN Women, UNICEF, UNFPA, MacArthur Foundation, ILO, British Council, DFID/UK Aid, Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption, IDEA, Federal Ministry of Justice, National Assembly on Constitutional Electoral Reforms, and the National Judicial Institute. Please, let's appreciate her again. All right. Professor Ezeilo is the 2019 winner of the National Human Rights Award bestowed by the National Human Rights Commission and the 2022 Civil Society Award of Excellence, jointly awarded by the UNDP, United Nations Women, in collaboration with the embassies of the United States of America, Germany, France, EU delegation, and the British High Commission. Professor Ezeilo is a recipient of several international and national honors and awards, including the British Chevening Scholarship, John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation's Funds for Leadership Development, and being recognized by Newsweek/Daily Beast, New York, United States in 2013 as one of the 125 women of impact in the world for her work to end human trafficking. Thank you very much. She also received the Honorable Justice Teslim Elias Award in 2019. This is an extended teaching service award for law teachers who are professors and have served over 25 years in law teaching at Nigerian universities. Above all, Professor Ngozi Ezeilo is a high chief in Igbo land and fondly called Triple Chief, Ochendo, Adeje Jemba, and Nzenachi. Ladies and gentlemen, with a resounding round of applause, please let's welcome Professor Joy Ngozi Ezeilo as she comes to make her presentation. Thank you very much.
Ndewono, Demeno, Allah, ndị Igbo nke onye chilinya lie daalụnụ dịka ihe a si wee dị akpọlia Nkata Umu Ibe. And you know Igbo people are known for numerous meetings of ụmụnna, okeke, ụkankwo, ụkafọ. We are always meeting. And those meetings are talks, and talks that resolve a lot of conflict. I want to thank the Center for Memories for inviting me as a keynote speaker on this occasion, and especially for March that is so important for women because we commemorate the International Women's Day. And this year's commemoration is also special because it's also Beijing plus 30, talking about Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action that was adopted following the World Conference in Beijing, China in 1995. So this year's topic, and for this year's International Women's Day, earlier in the day we had a big rally. I was just telling somebody standing because we've been dancing. We went to the House of Assembly. We went to market. We had a train. And we were commemorating the International Women's Day. And this day is for all women and girls, dignity, rights, and equality. Accelerate action. And here we are going to be talking today about Nwanyị Bụ Ife, harnessing collective strength for development of Ala Ìgbò. I can miss English because there are others joining us, including these our children here. Some of them may not be fluent in Igbo. I may not be able to understand this, but that's part of what we are advocating, that the Igbo language, asusu Igbo, amanjekwa extinct. Nani gana mu ya na asuya. Even these days, I think my children even write better than me because somehow they even studied Igbo in secondary school. And I think it was when federal government had a policy, you must take one language. Even for those that studied in Lagos, like my daughter in Queen's College, they took Igbo and all of them had AA in Igbo. And now I think that policy again reversed, but we need to, especially in the Southeast, continue that policy. Ndi Igbo, the Igbo people, Anyị Mama, have a rich and diverse history that dates back to Stone Age. Igbo culture is renowned for its richness and diversity. And some notable cultural practices that are quite unique to Ndi Igbo. Ekwe masking, imamong, title taking, anyị wakachechi, ụmụnna, age grade, traditional marriage, ndị unyom, ndị nwunye di, we have different levels of organization. Ndi Igbo are considered one of the wealthiest and the most educated ethnic groups in Nigeria. They also ranked as one of the states with least poverty. In fact, they constitute at least 15% of Nigeria's population, at least. There was a time, Ohanes, a few years back, did almost a census of Ndi Igbo living outside Igbo land in Nigeria. And they were over 12 million people. They are courageous, and for some people, they call them shrewd, but they are well-traveled business people. Those some see this through the negative prism by calling them restless and money-minded. However, they do not just travel, but they invest in the economic development of their host communities. The joke is that if anyone gets to any community and you see no Igbo person, the person should flee for their life because it is evident that the community is not habitable. So, Ijemba, Ifroni, Webafu, Ibalo. And I recall one of my very besties, good friend in the US, then when she got married to someone from Taraba State, they traveled. And then she was surprised that right there, an Imo person was living and has been living there for donkey years. And she said, Uncle Ebendi Imo State. But it's not just Imo State people. I think the entire Igbo land are known for that. The fact that Ndi Igbo are resilient is not a secret. This is evident from the fact that despite the civil war, despite the spirit injury, the physical injury, the loss of property following that war that killed about 3 million people, that saw to the confiscations of monies of Ndi Igbo in banks, land owned and property owned across Nigeria, they are waxing strong today. This is said to have been possible through cultural resilience. In other words, they have relied on cultural background consisting of values, language, customs, norms to individually and communally overcome adversities and realize their potentials. I tell you, once in 2010, when I was the UN Special Rapporteur on Trafficking, I was invited to speak in South Korea. And I arrived, I never imagined not only to see Ndi Igbo, but to see Ndi Igbo as an Ohanese, very well organized. I saw in the hall, because Koreans, Chinese, you can tell they're almost homogeneous. And in the hall with their numbers filled to the capacity, I could see people with red cap. I started wondering. I started seeing dark people. I now beckoned to one. I see they had in the news, and they gathered. And I quickly said, thank you so much, and I gave them my hotel, and said, in the evening, you people come, let us meet. And truly, they had also issues. And indeed, but they told me, they invested in South Korea when South Korea was even battling poverty, when South Korea wasn't the economic giant it was now, And they put in, when they were asking if you could invest $50,000 above 5, and they were there, they're giving residents, they are trading, and now they feel that, they have arrived, kind of, and then they are now beginning to play with their residents and their stay. And this is the plight of Ndị Igbo. Ndị Igbo na-ata afụfụ ebe niile. Fa nwee ike jenyela aka mepesi obodo, because at times anyị enwero ndị nọ na politics ma ndị na-ekwuchitela anyị, na-ekwuchite ọnụ anyị, which is very important. I recall during the National Political Reform Conference that I represented Southeast in 2005. In that political conference, we were given free accommodation for meeting of the Southeast delegates by then the owner and proprietor of Bolingo Hotels. May God bless his soul. And he gave even the leaders of Ndị Igbo, like Iruku, Emeka Anyok, he gave them rooms there. And he gave us discounts to stay there. And I recall one evening, because I acted almost as secretary, documenting all the meetings and everything. He said to me, he gave me a bottle of wine, and we are talking at the reception. He said, Ndị Igbo, enwegolo ego inwere political power and voice. One policy of one small boy can disorganize all of your wealth. And truly, if I be effectual work, chugidie until akpobue nwoke, ebe asị na aga demolish ụlọ and hotel all si nwa akwụkwọ ọfụma ebe ọ na-agbakili ya aka somebody duluziri wee jee na nke Obasanjo ya na waziri afọ anyị ncha nọkwa na National Political Reform Conference, and they went there and they died in plane accident. So that is life about Ndị Igbo. Some of the values that have helped Ndị Igbo include Ibambo, being industrious and resilience, Ichuchu, diligence, Njepo, vest travelers, Akonuche, wisdom and discerning, Ezia Hakarilego, good name is better than riches. Ebonye bika ona wachi, we talk about good neighborliness. Abato bionye bukwa nwanne, brotherhood, sisterhood in neighborliness, hard work, reverence for elders, respect for life, hospitality, family sense of Ndị Igbo. Na-eme na ụfọdụ ndị Yoruba bịa fasị na fachọrọ ịnụ onye Igbo. Na fama na fana value family life, and they will stay in one marriage to the end. So these are some of the values we know. Over time, Ndị Igbo seems to be losing focus by jettisoning these values that have brought us thus far and embrace inonkete. And I'm glad no Makano and then we mentorship aspect of this program. Inonkete, ibuteike, okite, without a mambo, contrary to the widely held belief that aka aja na ebuto ọnụ mmanụ. And if puta nwere ego ị ga-akpata mgbe inye onye Igbo sị gị biko amara m ebe onye asịkpata ego asị m n'akụkụ pụọ ọ bụrụzi kịta. In adopting these vices, previously considered as insane, there seems to be a misconception that individual riches equal development. I intend to counter this and show that developing Ala Ìgbò will involve communal effort of Ndị Igbo, regardless of sex or gender. Maka Ife, kwụlụ, Ife akwụde, and the Nwanyị Bụ Ife, Nwanyị Bụkwa Ife. And like the title of my paper says, Nwanyị Bụ Ife, harnessing collective strength for development of Ala Ìgbò. So the notion of Onye Kwechi Ekwe is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent in Igbo cosmology. Thus, the chi and chi that preface most Igbo names is not accidental. It is deep-rooted in Igbo philosophy and cosmology. What will the development of Ala Ìgbò mean? After the Civil War, many Ndị Igbo began rebuilding lost riches. The Biafran War seems to have created a propensity for individualism in wealth creation, with everyone working hard not to depend on the other. This appeared to have paid off. Many Ndị Igbo have become their own water corporation by supplying themselves water by drilling borehole and wells. They are power generating and distribution company through generators and solar installation. But they have not been able to provide roads as per highways, revealing the limitations of personal wealth. Despite the number of Igbo millionaires in different currencies, the region lacks the basic infrastructure of modern, livable, smart cities, implying that while individual wealth is good, development is better because wealth is for the individual, while development is for the community. The development of Ala Ìgbò will mean economic, social, and infrastructural improvement. This will include improved healthcare services, educational facilities, technology-driven industries, good road network, and political autonomy and self-determination. Ndị Igbo have excelled in entrepreneurship, which involves identifying opportunities, taking risks, and creating values by establishing new ventures. This Ndị Igbo entrepreneurial spirit is more evident outside Igbo land. Thus, there is need to replicate this in Igbo land. As a dynamic and multifaceted concept that is crucial in driving global economic growth, it thrives on infrastructural growth. In the face of globalization and technological advancement, Ndị Igbo must embrace digital platforms, e-commerce, and technologically driven industries, and of course, artificial intelligence, the fintech, e-learning, e-health, which will provide avenues for expansion. Igbo entrepreneurs can reach a wider customer base, streamline operations, enhance efficiency by adopting this. Even we know today what Aba is doing. They can do and replicate any designer, and you can't even tell the difference. Clothes, shoes, bags in Aba. And they do that, and there is a growing demand for made in Nigerian goods. And this will yield many returns in the form of employment creation and attraction of foreign investment. So we want Ala Ìgbò to become the Japan, the China, the Dubai of Africa. The Onitsha market, the largest in Africa, will boast of more products for sales. Economic development of Ala Ìgbò will imply investment in hospitality and tourism with full integration of women across sectors. There is need to invest further in development of tourism. Maka kwụlụ. A lot of tourism, Agulu Lake, Akuke Beach, Amako Cave, Arochukwu Cave, Arochukwu Shrine, or Home Waterfall. I've been there, but the road to get there is so difficult. But when you get there, you will say this is heavenly, that this is really, really worth all the trekking. And you will wonder why the monks live so close to that waterfall. So there is a Zumini Blue River. I think that is around that's also, is it, where is this place? Uguta side. There is Mongo Park House, National War Museum, Umahia, Ngwo Pine Forest, and Ancient Kingdom, Ledger Archaeological Site, Obunike Cave, Uguta Cave, Opera Mine, Uboro Salt Lake, Udi Hills, amongst many others. We have what it takes to make this place tourism site of the world. So now, the big question is, can this development journey be undertaken by Igbo men alone without the support of Igbo women? So development of Ala Ìgbò, we cannot, because we need for that development to have women and men. Nwanyị Bụ Ife means that for this Igbo renaissance or nation building, we cannot do it without women's inclusion. Ife kwụlụ, ife akwụde, the duality in Igbo cosmology is very important. Among Ndị Igbo, names are not just for identity, but they are significant. Thus, they are deeply, thought out. They are powerful because they can even affect the bearer for good or evil. They remind us of past experiences and concern for the future. Every name is said to be a story. Nwanyị Bụ Ife is an Igbo name for females, for which people can literally mean a woman is valuable or a woman is light. Nwanyị Bụ Ife. Literature like Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart portrays that in the past, Igbo women were denigrated. They were denigrated. The popular aphorism, Dibu Gunwanyi, meant that marriage is everything to a woman. Thus, our people will cross that 7 forests and 7 rivers to ensure that marriage happens to her, including initiating her through female genital mutilation, among other acts, and even in Rachi customary law. In this sought-after marriage, she's even socially dead if the marriage produces no offspring, irrespective of who is at fault. In cases of infertility, whether female or male cause, she's in some quarters expected to marry another woman for her husband, so that the cry of children will be heard at the home. The Supreme Court, Honorable Justice of Supreme Court, pronounced this practice of even enrachi or woman-to-woman marriage as repugnant. And in Meribe and Egu, they endorsed these pronouncements because this seemingly beneficent custom to practice is rooted in patriarchy, exculpating men from liability in childless marriage. Have these and similar practices stopped? The answer is in the negative. Even with fertility, the woman is considered complete and secured only when she has sons. The son preference ideology, Diopa, was common in Ala Ìgbò for many reasons, including continuity of family lineage and routes for inheritance. So, in Mojeku and Ejikeme, we now know the position of Supreme Court. Before then, cases like Nzewu and Nzewu, they even say that a woman continued stay in her husband's place is subject to her good behavior. And she cannot, by a flution of time, acquire right to that property. Nwanyị Bụ Ife is therefore the story of Igbo women, a prayer, a prophecy, all wrapped in one. It is the story of women moving from a Nwanyị Emegini to a place of what? An Igbo woman today is both Okpata Ako and what? Odozi Ako. Gone are the days when they were only Odozi Ako. It is a prayer and a prophecy that Igbo women will be seen as valuables. Women formerly seen as Oriako began and conducted the Aba Women's Riot in 1929 to protest the treatment of colonial masters and overtaxation. The men couldn't do even what the women did. During the Nigerian Civil War, women took up roles outside the family, like nursing and cooking. Someone rightly said it was the reawakening of the spirit of Aba Women's Riot. Today, we know Igbo women of substance. We know Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She's still my number one because she's notable African and world acclaimed writer that actually has defended even Igbo race and Igbo more than any other. It's called, I was at the chieftaincy title given to her in Aba, called Odelowa, our global voice. Indeed, she is our global voice. There is Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Director General of World Trade Center. We have Chief Janet Omokel. Sometimes this woman is often forgotten. That she even went to Lancaster House. She was part of drafting of the Constitution. And she was part of the nationalist movement. And we often hear about Ransom Kuti, all of Moremi, and we forget our own Chief Janet Morkel. Dr. Dora Akunyeli of blessed memory, the first female DG of NAFDAC, We have also Barrister Theodore Obi Nwankwo, who was here with us in Enugu, who was also the UN expert committee member on CEDAW. We have Dr. Stella Chinyelu Okoli, an entrepreneur, industrialist, and pharmacist. She is the founder of Emzo Pharmaceuticals. We have Chioma Ajunwa, the long jumper, Chinyere Akalo, Florence Nwapa of blessed memory. These are writers of repute. We can continue. What about our own dear Onyeka Onwenu of blessed memory? Nigerian singer, songwriter, and actress. Obia Ezekwesili, Madame Due Process, an MD of World Bank. What of our modern contemporaries like Dr. Chichi Aniagolo, who is also the country director of Ford Foundation, West Africa. And I stand here, my humble self, to also say, to be counted for what I have done globally. I call it in my upcoming memoirs, a journey from local to global. From local, co-camp Enugu, to global, to transcending and conquering my world. Today, by God's grace, reaching the zenith of my career in the 3 dimensions of legal profession. One, as a full law professor. Secondly, as a senior advocate of Nigeria in legal practice. And also as a life bencher. And I thank God for that. Listen. I have served the world by being United Nations Special Rapporteur on Trafficking in Persons, especially women and children, for 6 years, traveling every corner of the world. I traveled to over 100 countries in that assignment. And in that, so when you had the Newsweek, gave me that award in 2013, and brought me to New York, where Tina Brown was the Newsweek Daily Beast, the editor. You will see, I was Robin. I saw Christiana Wampo, Hillary, Meryl Streep, and all of those people, and we were sharing podium. And I said, in fact, I recall my VC then, that time they used to sell Newsweek at the post office. And he got that Newsweek, he saw my photo, and he saw and he couldn't believe it. He called me and said, I saw you on Newsweek. I saw you on Newsweek, and you're being given an award. And I said, it is to the glory of God. Because as Igbo, we know that where we are supposed to be, even in the center of politics and governance in the country, is not where we are. Because of marginalization, because of, so everything, most of us, by dint of hard work. None was given on a platter of gold. I had, when I finished my mandate, before I finished, I got so many awards, I got so many letters that were moving. Letters from US to everywhere, and actually they gave me State Department Award, which the United Nations said I will not accept because it will be conflict of interest. I was working then as the UN Special Rapporteur on trafficking. But I tell you, hard work pays. And in the Igbo, that's why if I do a bambo now, chune nwete ego. Man obroku di ego nke okite o. Obroku di ego nke nwanne ga alaptazi nwanne ya mo nwa ekpoluzi nne ya. Obroku di ego afu ka ai cholo. Ai cholo eziafa. Eziafa. Yes. So there are many unsung Igbo women. Beyond the individual feats, Igbo women are collectively setting standards. Ndi munye di organizing, building, Ikadi Agufa. The August Women Meeting now is so popular, and they do a lot through that means. They do a lot in churches. They contribute to civic development. This demonstrates that Igbo men, as well as women, have the individual and collective capacity of breaking bounds to economically move Ala Ìgbò forward. Possible areas deserving the harnessing the collective strength. Seeing that Igbo men and women are Ala Ìgbò development conscious. That's why. I say, why is it that they always travel? In fact, they were even saying a lot of insecurity. People would not come home. But I saw a huge number. As at even early 9th of January, people were still going back. The airports were full. So Ndi Igbo believe not going home. While every area deserves synergy, the low-hanging fruits make sense. And this area I will quickly, because I want to conclude in the next 10 minutes or less. Language is not just a means of communication, but it connects people, shapes the reality, and opens doors for endless possibilities. I know many places of the world where I will come, even in Thailand, say on the street of Bangkok in November. I saw some people speaking Igbo. I say, "Nna, ndi banya no kueba." Olo telu megu unamakwana guys no na Congo. Igbo amaka o, mana guys na atakwa afofo, guys no kwa na Congo, guys no na Angola, guys no na fire no kwa na Ukraine ma agbafa nkete. But we need to keep that our identity. And up and in fact, for the tajila maka everywhere, like I said, I saw in South Korea, for dress here like Indigo, where that identity. I've been other places. Hanejizia tajila kandigo. As in the governor now organized, it's in Ebo chief, it's in Ebo ezan. But we too have to reach out and embrace those principles, Saima. Na batobi buwane onye. That good neighborliness is very important. Education. Nelson Mandela said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. This is indeed true, as no nation grows beyond its educational system. While students of Ndi Igbo extraction are not doing badly in their results, the educational system in our Igbo land is fraught with many challenges, beginning with poor infrastructure. Many rich Ndi Igbo are yet to invest in our educational system. Some believe it is exclusive preserve of the government. It is not. Anyuma Ife IGAB before Igwe came. And we have to. That's how even my UNN and most of our universities are lacking what we need. The issue of security. We know that the Constitution of the Federal Republic, in its section 14, makes security and welfare the primary purpose of government. Unfortunately, with the present happening, security is fast becoming everyone's business. Ala Ìgbò is fast losing its serenity and allure of foreign dwellers to come home because of insecurity. We have a lot of this. While we urge the government at every level to rise to the occasion, we must look inwards. The perpetrators of these crimes in our Igbo must be brought to book. Have we become so cowardly that we cannot name and shame them? Ofuonye adi akali ora. To this we must reflect and return to our values. Religion. Ndi Igbo are deeply spiritual and very religious, but even in their spiritual journey, they do not believe in leaving everything for the Creator. Thus, the saying, onye kwe, chiye kwe, meaning that religion should not be reason for physical or mental laziness. Kitas efo ndiga ababanye n'ụka. Oka anya from morning to night to bulu that Bible biakwe, yet ago ana agubwe. One check and need that nenu. That is not what we know. Culture and tradition. Ndi Igbo are naturally egalitarian. However, this positive attribute seems to stop when it relates to women. This is evident in many practices, including levirate marriage, which takes away consensual marriage among other widowhood malpractices. While culture is the people's way of life, people must be courageous enough to question that culture. And I cited a number of cases which I will not go into. Economy, I mentioned issues around economy of Ndi Igbo. Ndi Igbo are industrious. In my growing up days, we learn from childhood to imbibe that aka aja aja na ebute ọnụ mmanụ mmanụ. Ndị Igbo have never been known to be ndị na-anọ nkịtị. The current language of ibute by all and sundry at all costs is an aberration. However, ibute okite is not the main problem because money comes with industry. But the desire to okite without Ibambo is anti-Igbo. In my growing up years, Igbos were known for Ibambo, Nichuchu. People knew the source of wealth of the rich. Parents, relatives, indeed the entire community refused philanthropy of people whose source of wealth they do not know, who are of doubtful sources of wealth. They say, no, we can't. Today, the same community welcomes and embraces people whose source of riches is questionable. They are done with chieftaincy title, where everyone looks the other way. The Iba boy system of Ndibo has been so successfully effective for decades. Yesterday, I had dinner with a businessman and the wife, and they were telling me of how for he Oba boy for 12 years and 8 months, and was settled with 20 naira in 1994. Today, Onya is multi-millionaire, and he has grown businesses, and he said, out of that 20 naira, is either I give you 100 naira, we do combine, 100,000, we do combine, or I give you 20 naira, you go so. And she sought advice, and she said, this combine look like what will lead them to problem, and another many years of another Iba boy. And he opted. And then he said he took 90 naira out of it to book Novena Mass for 90 days. And then from there buying things from there and growing. And our people can, live tightly, miserly, working towards growing their business. And that's how they succeeded. I will go to my conclusions and recommendations. And in my paper, I have it in 2 segments. The first is recommendation of general nature. And then I have specific recommendation that we position Nwanyị Bụ Ife for our collective advancement. So with regard to general recommendation, I talked about collective and vigorous resuscitating of Igbo language, Sobaku Igbo. Sobaku Igbo programs in schools and public places. Setting a day aside for speaking Igbo language everywhere in the Southeast, beginning from state houses of assembly. Why can't Igbo language be all business? Translating laws into Igbo language. After all, I translate my Bible into Igbo language. Investing in Igbo-related research, because research leads to development. Nollywood, transmission of Igbo values through folklore. Using Nollywood, literature, social media can reshape narratives on gender perceptions and roles, engaging religious traditional leaders in gender advocacy and women's rights. We need to leverage the commerce and trade acumen of Ala Ìgbò towards strategic industrialization within the region. On specific recommendation, which is the final segment of my paper, I think for inclusive development of Ala Ìgbò, this is where we should be going. Notably, on women, we must commit to following recommendation, recognizing women's rights as human rights, the dignity and personhood of a woman as a full person, firm soul, capable of making decisions in their own right. Equal representation of women and men at local, state, and national assembly is the foundation of promoting the assertion, Nwanyị Bụ Ife, where the power is now, Igbo women are not. Inheritance and succession rights must be accorded to women as their full right. And luckily, the Supreme Court have also pronounced on this. Access to land, it means access to capital. And capital is an important means of production. Economic empowerment is essential. As noted by Jessica Leigh Levels, promoting financial inclusion for women through supportive policies, can create opportunities for them to have startup businesses, pursue education, gain independence, and agencies. We must ensure that Igbo women and youth can access financial services, credit, market to support entrepreneurship and independence. Employment opportunities and job creation. Unemployment is huge. Encourage industries and businesses to create jobs for women and youth. Promoting equal pay and equal opportunities. Universities in the Southeast should develop what we call science parks based on the triple helix theory, which is university coming together, government and industry and private sector to accelerate development. The University of Nigeria started Lions Science Park initiative during Professor Benjamin Chuma Ozumba Vice Chancellorship. It's on innovation and entrepreneurship, and I happen to be the legal advisor of that science park. I incorporated for Ohaneze-led strategic group that was appointed by Southeast governors. There were 50 of us. And there they discussed about development of Ala Ìgbò. And I incorporated the company, the one called the investment arm, Ala Ìgbò Investment Company Limited, and the Igwe Development Foundation. Since 2021, what are we waiting for to operationalize them and leapfrog development in Igbo land? This initiative will create jobs to employ our teeming youth. We need also public and community education, and we should prioritize equity and gender equality. I have quite a lot of recommendations. I'm not going to go through all. I talked about education and training. I mentioned political participation and leadership. Igbo women must be recognized and given their rightful place in leadership structures in Igbo land. At Igwe's cabinet, women's representative must be part of the team. Gladly, some traditional and cultural leaders in Igbo land are doing that. Additionally, women and youth need leadership training. They need mentorship, capacity building. And I'm glad that the Center for Memories have incorporated mentorship in their program. We need social and cultural transformation. There must be shift in attitude towards addressing sex stereotype and negative masculinity. Unu nene unafu ondi Igbo na akpalikali ụmụ nwanyị. Fanwa na-aka etibukwa nwunye ha. Domestic violence is very rife in Igbo land. I talked about health and well-being. We need to tackle mental health issues. Drug abuse that is rampant and destroying our youth, as well as exacerbating violence against women and girls, HIV/AIDS, and unwanted pregnancy. It is important to address all forms of violence, including cultural and negative social norms, domestic violence, sexual violence, human trafficking. Education and skills development, girls' education, vocational training for all. Of course, we know boy-child dropout is real. If you see universities, even like mine, University of Nigeria, women have taken over male hostels. Even in law now, many of them. So digital literacy we must embrace. We need partnership and collaboration between civil society, community-based organization, faith-based organization, government partnership, private sector partnership. By implementing this recommendation, we can mainstream women in development and nation building, promoting gender equality and empowering women to reach their full potential. Conclusion, Igbo Amaka is a fact, and it will be more beautiful if women are included in Igbo political, economic, and sociocultural activities. Ala Ìgbò will be more splendid with the full participation of women in all spheres. Igbo women have played a significant role in being custodians of culture, contributing to development projects through women association and organization, including Omuada, Ndi Inyom, Ndi Nwunye, Women Church Grouping, and the August Women's Meeting. The time is now to accord Igbo women their rightful place in Igbo land. International Women's Day celebrated on, tomorrow, we're already celebrating this. This year theme is for all women and girls, rights, equality, and empowerment. Accelerate action. The day marks a call to action for accelerating women's equality and celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The Accelerate Action team emphasizes the need to take swift and decisive steps to achieve gender parity. It's a rallying cry to acknowledge strategies, resources, and activities that positively impact women's advancement and to support their implementation. We use this 2025 IWD to call for action to include Igbo women based on Nwanyị Bụ Ife principle. Nneka, maka, bụ onyinye, irrespective of sex. We call for action for the inclusive development of Ala Ìgbò that will harness the full potentials of women and men, not one that leaves women behind, because together we will make Ala Ìgbò great again. Thank you.
Akụchaga aka. I saw older people give her a standing ovation and younger people were sitting. I don't think that speaks to what she's talking about. Please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you so much. The best way to do justice to this, to unbundle everything that she has said, is through the moderated panel session, which will follow suit. So with a standing ovation, please, can we welcome the moderator of the panel session, Mrs. Onyi Mama, who is also a figure in the CSO in Enugu and in Nigeria at large. Please make welcome Mrs. Onyi Mama. And in the panel session, we will hear more about what has been said. Thank you. Thank you. Please sit. We'll hear more about what has been said and aspects that will be touched upon in greater detail. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prof. I don't know if I should be sitting with you, but it's a privilege and an honor we don't take for granted. So I'll quickly run down the synopsis, the tiny bits of what you spoke about. You can imagine the number of books you have there. I'm going to bring them down in tiny bits. So, Nwanyị Bụ Ife potali Ife. That's what I got. And if you have money and don't have political power, a little boy with political power may certainly pull you down. And you so much blossomed the pride of the Igbo origin, the Igbo man, and the beauty of the Igbo woman. You talked about individual wealth being good, but development without all of us can never make us wealthy. You also spoke about substantial inclusion of women in development sectors. Prof, you didn't pity adding that development with women, it's what makes development complete.
Yes.
You also have carried this personality and glory about you that never denigrates, defaces, or defames a woman. You glorify women and you are particular about spotlighting those aspects of a woman that makes her thick and makes her better. So you are a perfect example of that woman that is yet to speak a lot about the beautiful side of a woman before you go into talking about her bad side. You also reminded us that as Igbos, we were nurtured and still being nurtured with values, norms that make us hardworking, diligent, resilient, tenacious, and we continue. So, Prof, can you, in all you've said, distill those words and tell us, the public, the young ones and the women, is Nigeria really developing?
For some, we say that is a case of one step forward, 2 steps backward. And for us, we have made some progress and we have also regressed. And Nigeria definitely is not where it's supposed to be, because they are lucky to have a lot of natural resources, including petroleum, and they were once the 6th or 5th largest oil-producing country. But that money and oil wealth has not been used. That our commonwealth has not been used for the development of the nation. And that's why today we end up where we are, where human security is still a challenge, freedom from fear and want, where the security of lives and property is being threatened, where there is a whole economy on kidnapping, on all forms of vices, where when you mention Nigeria or carry Nigerian passport, people will look and say, look, once you're Nigerian, they sit up. Maybe they take all of us as one of those sending them. In fact, I had a friend once working in South Africa, and a co-worker received one of these phishing mails, that we know, fraudsters. And next, he turned around to accuse her that she's a Nigerian and the one that gave them her number. You see, just it's a way some people think. And this is a person in a big organization, actually international organization. But because you're in Nigeria, you can be stigmatized for anything. So we have not done well. For Ala Ìgbò, we can say that despite the war, that in terms of building, physical, development, things that we could do, drill our own water, boreholes, everything. But you see that there are still things that make a smart city, that makes it livable. If generator is humming everywhere, there is no way you can be enjoying your right to clean environment. It will be public nuisance, the noise and everything. So there are things we still need government to do at all levels. And we know that Igbos have particularly been marginalized in scheme of things in Nigeria. But importantly, we say that a democracy that is not engendered is engendered. So we must ensure that women's rights count, that in development and democracy that we carry half of the population, the other gender. Otherwise, how do you try to run with 1 feet? 1 foot, you can't run effectively. And that's why you need both gender standing on their 2 feet, male, female, in order to make progress development-wise.
All right, Prof. Since the first Beijing conference, 1995, right now we're talking about Beijing 30 plus. And prominently, we are pursuing a theme for this year, which wants to spell out the rights, the equality, and empowerment of the women, and asking us to accelerate action. Prof, what more actions do we need to take for Nigerians and us, no matter how small the units are and the country is, to make sure that women are also piloted into the sectors of affairs that trickle in all aspects of the society?
Yes, because when we talk of Beijing, we are talking of 30 years ago. 30 years ago that the world leaders gathered in Beijing, China, that they looked and adopted the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action, that they saw the 12 critical areas of concern, from poverty to economic, to women's human rights, to violence against women, to women and media, to harmful cultural practices, to institutional mechanisms. And they said these are areas of concern, and we should accelerate action to ensure that we bridge the gender gaps that they see in all those areas they mapped out for critical action, for strategic action. But you see, after how many years, that was in Beijing, that the popular 30% affirmative action was entrenched to ensure women's political participation. 30 years down the line, we have had national gender policy, where are women? Where the power is, Nigerian women are not. Actually, as we speak, the representation in parliament stands at 5%. We are under 10% nationally in terms of elected women. In the Senate, only 4 women. You look at the House of Reps, the state houses of assembly, 44 out of 990 or so. And there are up to 14 or 15 state houses of assembly without a single female. So it has been, in terms of decision making, in terms of governance, politics without women. And women have a right to participate in the government of their countries. And when you look at that political participation, you see that economy, women's poverty is also affecting them. The fact that they don't have access to land, they can't inherit and own land, where would they get the capital? In a highly monetized politics, in a mercantile politics that you see, where is a do or die affair. And the man doesn't want to give up on it because it has become the fastest way to making money. Making money and diverting our collective wealth. And that is what it is. And that's why the struggle for that. So in elsewhere, people can tell you, how many American women are in politics? But I tell them the difference, that any American woman that comes or doesn't want to come out is a choice. And when they want to run, they will also be treated fairly.
Yeah.
And it's not because of money. They actually raise funds through the public. And it's not because of who you are. But in Nigeria, it's a fight to finish. That's why we are asking for special seats for women. That's why we are asking for proportional representation. That's why we're asking for affirmative action. The issue of financial inclusion, access to credit is important. Education and training for skills empowerment. STEM, women in science, technology, mathematics, engineering, we need them. We need also men too, because our men in Igbo land are dropping out of school. They are trying to make money, quick money. So male enrollment is of concern in southeastern Nigeria. So we need to look at all of that, because women may end up marrying. Nothing wrong is your choice if you decide to marry a illiterate man. But what happens, and what we have seen with the kind of cases Wakol does, you may become a lawyer, a medical doctor, an engineer, and your husband have not seen the 4 walls of secondary school. Yeah. So you can imagine the kind of relationship you're going to have. Everything, the trust will not be there. If you talk about your classmate, if you spend time on WhatsApp, socializing with your classmate, he will even ban you from that WhatsApp group. I know some that they will say you can't go to conferences. What for? Or you cannot talk about certain things. Or I don't need you to stop that work. And every day we have to mediate conflicts of men coming. Hey, my wife called him back. He does this. And I said, can you at this time feed your family alone without contribution from this woman? And you want her to stop this work. And because of, what is it called? Complex. So that's why we want our men to get educated. We want our boys to get education. So that they don't end up having this complex, battering their wives who are more highly educated and exposed than them. So we don't need that. We need to balance it. Yes.
Okay, Prof, thank you so much. Sometime in 2023, I started a little movement called Men Support Women, because I think we needed to cascade it down to their nets and find out if there were traces of things we're trying to bring to the fore that is not speaking to their details. So we called the men to a forum and we listened to them talk. And they voiced out a lot of feelings about women. But Prof, at the center of it all is still masculinity and patriarchy. What do you think we should do at this era? Prof, at this point, I'm ashamed of some things. I don't know how to really express it. Is that something we're doing we need to fill up or patch up, or we need to now use this man more than we use ourselves? or I don't know, but we need to bring a lasting solution at this point. This is 30 plus. After you were in Beijing with all them, and so many women that fought like you, and were still lining up the same squabbles, the same crises, the same issues, do we need to re-strategize? Is there a certain space for reorientation of what we are clamoring for?
Yes, we need community education and sensitization about rights of women, roles and responsibility, gender roles, clarification along sex division of labor. What you will find out is that we need to promote positive masculinity.
Yeah.
I once went to a secondary school on outreach many years ago, and I was trying to, catch them young and teach them to respect each other, men and boys and girls. And I asked them, what is the difference between a man and a woman? And one boy quickly got up and said, Auntie, the difference is very clear. I'm a boy. So this is kind of cultural orientation. If you have son preference ideology, deep-seated social or deep-rooted social norms, sex stereotypes that create that gender inequalities, that disparity reinforced by just a man. Because from whom? Agent of socialization should do better. Family, schools, community, churches. Because if at home, you're sending only your female daughter to be around you in kitchen, and you're allowing the boys to play football, we know now women are also playing good football. And then you say, no, you should be the one, sit down. We let things fall apart. We know all those reinforced gender. You sit like a woman, isn't it? And all of those things still play and happen today because even our textbooks are replete with gender biases, with sex stereotypes of gender roles. But the same men here, take them to a different environment. You will see them carrying babies. You will see them sharing duties. You will see them standing in while their wives even go on a night duty. The same men may not allow their women in this climb to be on a night shift. So it's attitudinal change. It's about sensitization, gender sensitization, public enlightenment, using the media, multi-pronged approach, including traditional media. We have to, use enter-educate approach, information, educational, and communication materials to really say that in the world, even culture is not static. Culture is a mirror of accepted usage. The culture, after all, at a point, they were killing twins, thinking it's a bad omen. Today, are we still killing twins? Culture is not static. There are things that we used to do in the past, which people have seen that there is no benefit to that, and they have dropped it. So we cannot, on one hand, embrace certain, and then embrace certain negative cultural norms against women. We must catch them young. So that program, Men Supporting Women, is very important. I believe we should not marginalize men. We should include men in conversation about women's rights. Because sometimes they will also express what is their worry. I recall once, over a decade ago, we are doing one community outreach in one community around Ogu area, local government area. So the men, we normally go to traditional cabinet, tell them why we are in their community and what we are doing. And the men complain bitterly that on Sunday they don't see their women. That they will take off in the morning. It's all church, and they will be there till evening. So we felt this was a consultation point.
Yeah.
So when we met the women, we asked them, and we brought this matter before them. Yes. No, for themselves. Then we now said, yes, but this you can do in a better way. How? Sienus tu na bani Saturday. ụtụtụ Sunday sie nu rice. Isichazia that rice, stew na rice adigo ready. Iwe jebezi ụka malụ na nni dị a ga-eli ha na-anụ ka esifa na nni fa adigo dakwazia n'ofe ọ dị izi. You know, and it's about navigating and bargaining and managing time, and then how you do certain things. And they took that advice, and we went back, and the men told us they can see a difference. We also told them, please allow women this space. They also need that space. And in this church, all they do and all the meetings are also for the development and interest of the community.
Thank you so much, Prof. I mean, you're just an encyclopedia of knowledge. We won't tap all of them today. It's just that when we see you, it may be in the next 5 years. So let's tap some. All right. So, Prof, the Igbo climb and ideology is one that smoothens and also serenades with peace and hard work, right?
Yes.
But this current society is, if you don't pace up to make money quick, and you don't beat your wife at home, you're not a man. If you don't make money early, you're not a man. Please, what's your last word for our audience, and especially the men who are sitting and listening now?
So please, you know, because when they say men network, you know, and then when they are there in beer parlor, which is seen as their space, they all talk about how tough they are. I want to tell you, do not be deceived. Some of those talk is not true. One person said that one day, he was alien. He said, my wife cannot do that. I cannot tolerate it. And that man, one day saw the man, the wife gave him a hot slap. Of course, we are not encouraging violence, whether from a woman or from a man. But you know those peer pressure, those kind of discussion, you may innocently bring up a family matter in a place where you're drinking with your friends, and they will give you that macho advice and tell you, you must be in charge of your home, if not, this will happen, this, that. And every situation is different. Please don't take that. I always say, because for men, they say, yes, that woman is this, that. I don't think part of it is that some men are not honest. And I say that because I know when my husband married me, one of the first things he did was to tell me how much he earns. And I don't see. I became actually the manager that I will manage and save and make sure that we don't even exceed 70% of what he earns or 50. Because you're also planning for future. So, but when men give impression that I will have that, one of my friends then told me when the man was where he said, I'll get you a butler, I'll get you this, you will have a cook, you will travel the world, and this. This man doesn't have money. He's just daydreaming and wanted to entice and deceive the lady and was bringing a friend's car all the time. So when they got married and those things were not there, even the car wasn't his own. So what happened? There became tension, quarrels, expectations already built were high. Expectations wrongly built because of the impression you gave the woman. And now because of that, it degenerates to domestic violence. So please, let's be honest to our spouses. Let's work in partnership, knowing that if you support a woman and support that your wife or partner or your sister or another woman, that you will definitely reap from it. The same way we also advise women, because of the way some men behave, some women say, I will never give my money. My income will never go to that man. You see? So they will refuse to buy anything, even common vegetable. They will say not their money, because if you give impression, if I put in money now, this man may want to marry another wife. You see? Because of all of those. But we must have conversation around this. We must continue to bargain this patriarchy. We must continue to deconstruct certain notions, certain myths, certain pejoratives around women. To also know that women are not just odoziako, that women are opatako, and that men are also not meant to carry all the burden, that women are there. They are supposed to be there to give them support. Because if you don't give them that support, they may die before their time. We need to support each other. That's why we say progress for women is progress for men, and is also progress for the nation. Ndị Igbo, malụnụ na nwanyị bụ ife, nwanyị bụ ife. Kita, I think families have realized. But it still breaks my heart that even when they provide, there was one man in one case, the man said, see, I know my daughter, if I die, they may not allow you to take that land. The man hailed from Ozobolo. And he said, I'm making this gift inter vivos while I'm alive and with my senses. And he gave the land in the town to the. Do you know that they still went to court to challenge this gift by their father? And it was the daughter that looked after the man. You know, you have read about Ifi Amadume's female, the female husbands, male daughters, and all of that, to show also that women do take on the role of breadwinners in their family. Even as Ada, we know what we, as Ada, in our own respective families, and our contribution to the family. That's why, even in Igbo, then, the first daughter is always Ngozi, because they believe that you're going to really make sure, prosper the family, open the doors, and everything. So, Nwa Amaka and Nwanyị Bụ Ife, Igbo Amaka, and Igejikonu Aka, working together to accelerate development and sustainable development in Igbo land. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much. We can never have enough of you, Prof. Thank you so much. We're so glad. To the audience, you may be itching seriously to ask some questions. We'll take just one or two. Okay, already 3 hands up. Okay, let's take the 3. And then we'll... Okay, so give to Onyebuchi, Jonah Pete.
Good evening, House, and good evening to you, our indefatigable Prof. Prof, I'm so blessed to be here present live and direct. I can't see you, but I've heard your voice loud and clear. And whoever that may not have known you before now, we know Wako. Yeah. We know Tamasak. God bless you and keep you, ma. By His grace, you still sound stronger and more powerful and energetic. Ma, with all the experiences you have gathered, from the educational side of it, exposure to the international community, and the knowledge you have acquired so far, and then the concept you have taken us this evening, may I narrow it down to the community I represent? I wish to know, what is your view towards the situation of persons with disabilities? I've heard the concept of Nwanyị Bụ Ife. Then what do you have to tell us about the women with disabilities, girls with disabilities, who we also know that cases of their own violations have also been reported in Wako and Tamasak and others. Only Mama good enough, she's here. And she has been one of our ambassadors, giving us that voice in this special community. So, Ma, what is your view towards persons with disabilities and the women in particular? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Prof. I wish I can start with commending you for each of your titles, because none of them actually come by chance. That's nice. I want to thank you personally. I want to thank Ambassador Onimama, because you are not just women. You have unconsciously become Bible for the new generation leaders, the Gen Zs, who are being seen as lazy. What's that slang again? They say we are woke. I want to thank you because you have a way of really setting the pace for us. But it still leaves me with very big worries. For the fact that we are young, we get to that stage where obviously you really want to settle down, you want to get married, raise your home, and it brings you to the fear of behind the successful women. They are married, they have children, that makes them mothers, and they still have it all perfectly looking from the outside. I know as a lady, it's not perfect, it's scary. So how do you wear these shoes beautifully well? Because for some of us, I will not lie, it scares me out to know that, okay, I have built something for myself in my 20s, and the fact that, oh, I might enter marriage tomorrow, and this marriage might either make me or mar me. And if it makes me, bravo. If it doesn't make me, what is my fate? So please, I really want to know that small recipe you use in cooking your food that makes us enjoy it perfectly. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Igwe Franklin. I'm the president of Law Students Association, University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. Prof, I really appreciate you for the wonderful lecture and the opportunity for us to be here this evening. My questions are in two parts, actually. I want to ask, are there any recent, reforms, initiative or laws that helps in promoting women when it comes to inheritance of property here in Nigeria, especially in Igbo land? Again, the issue of inheritance for the ladies, for women in our land is very, very something that is delicate and it has been causing a lot of problems. So I want to understand what, are the benefits or disadvantages for a lady to inherit a property from her father, after he must have died, assuming the father does not have any son that will, take over from the family. Because if she now inherits the property or the land from the father, and she marries, what happens afterwards? Who goes back to take after that and every other thing? It has been an issue. And Umunna, sometimes they come in trying to fight to collect this land, saying that, she has married, she does not have the right to come to the family to, claim anything. So these are my questions. Thank you very much, ma.
In the light of recent happenings in our political space, this was very timely. Thank you so much for not mincing words. But I do have a question, and it is, at the beginning of your presentation, you referenced Igbo women's ability to make and keep homes as a desirable trait that endears them to men from other tribes who then seek to make brides out of them. I hear you, ma, and I agree. But I want to ask, at what cost? At what cost? Have we, in a bid to try to maintain this narrative, encouraged to stay the marriages and shame them to death most times? And even when they manage to come out, how do we receive them? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Prof. Prof, there is one comment that you made when we are talking. The comment doesn't still go down well with me.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is, yes. Okay, my name is Comrade Aniakudo Vincent Choba is my name. Yes. You said something about women. There's something that you said about women. Their husband beating their wives, and some women getting some entitlement from their fathers where they were born. Prof, up to this point in this our generation now, that fact have not been cleared properly. Because why? Those kind of arrangements in the family, we the men in the families, it doesn't go down well with us. Because some of our sisters, if they get married, their husbands might get some properties which belongs to them automatically. If they get from their husband, then as well, from where they came from, they will still get some. So we the men now is feeling cheated about it. Yes. Okay. So it's still difficult about these challenges.
The challenges of what? Is it women inheritance or what?
Yes, the women inheritance. In the both sides, both where they come from and from their husband's sides.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for a wonderful lecture that you gave today. Absolutely amazing. I'll probably just put a caveat to this. I visited the center yesterday just to look around, and I heard that you'll be speaking today, so I decided to come back, and it's been absolutely worth it.
Thank you.
I think that as an Igbo, my name is Chief Chukwuka Udemezue. I'm a barrister as well. I think that from a male perspective, as an Igbo man, there's a problem that is persisting within our community, particularly for those who are overseas. And it is the breakdown of marriages when women who are brought from home, to places like the United Kingdom, the United States, and there's always some form of, not always, but there's been a serious situation about disconnects. And that can be tracked back to the lack of having those cultural norms and cultural values infused in them. It's not always a question of domestic violence. There have been issues about domestic violence, which are well documented. But there are issues with regards to just the general respect, And I'll just mention something briefly. My mother worked. She was a working woman. My father worked as well. But there's something that my mother always used to do when she came back from work. We had a cook who made the food, but she would go straight into the kitchen, and she'll probably just give them a little bit of a scare, and she'll bring the food out and serve to my father, just as a way to show that, I may be a working mother, but I still value our Igbo traditions and our respect. So I think there's a disconnect, and I don't know what your views are on that disconnect. Thank you.
Prof, if I had expected less, I would be deceiving myself. Meanwhile, VC Odo is my name, Chairman Nigerian Bar Association, Enugu branch. Prof, you gave an A to Z of this lecture, leaving nothing at all untouched. But Prof, I saw you struggling to balance the interests of the sexes, the male, the female. I saw it as a struggle because you had a bent in favor of the women. You were more protective of their interests. I agree that traditionally, culturally, historically, women had probably been discriminated or marginalized or suppressed, but not any longer, at least in Igbo land, generally speaking, because education, exposure, religion, so many things had come into play to, liberate the women. Irrespective of all these changes that had taken place, women are still creating the impression that they are marginalized. And I don't seem to get it clearly. Because one, if you go to educational institutions, women are dominating not only as teachers, even as students. And you acknowledge that much here. In professional bodies, like those of us who are lawyers, we know that on the bench, women are more than the men. If you go to, except maybe if it's like engineering, almost every other profession, women are in charge. Instead of looking at themselves to blame themselves, women are looking at men and blaming men. I want to ask, if you go to a family and a woman, for instance, a young lady gets married, her first nemesis is the mother-in-law. Before even the sisters-in-law will, swoop on her to begin to deal with her. Men may not be involved. Women are not doing something about it among themselves to deal with themselves, control themselves, but they are blaming men. Now, when the woman perhaps becomes a widow, or maybe, it does happen, you will see that her problem will be women. And women are not addressing these issues. They are talking to men. They are blaming men. Now, when it comes to inheritance, we do have, of course, Ukeje and Ukeje. We know. My Lord Honorable Justice G.C. Namani had in a particular case before the Customary Court of Appeal distinguished Ukeje and Ukeje on the ground that by virtue of the rights of marriage, when there is a transfer of the woman is practically in a contractual manner handed over in a marital transaction, because marriage is a contract, to the husband's family. And she changes her name and goes, severs that relationship practically. Yes, that is legally there is a severance because she changes her name. Now, the law, Ukeje and Ukeje, still holds that the woman can still come back and claim title, which Justice Namani said no, that severance deprives her from that right. And if care is not taken, given our tradition, because this is Igbo culture, umunna, before you know it, you know the settlement that umunna try to live together in the environment. The woman gets a share of the father's property, probably sells it to a stranger who comes to live among this umunna to dilute their integrity. So there is a problem to be balanced in this interest. Thank you so much.
My name is Chukswan Chukwuchidimebi. I'm a first-year law student of the University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. I want to commend you for all you've said. It really helped us to understand what is happening to women in our society as of today. I also want to acknowledge your position as a senior advocate of Nigeria and a life bencher, which means you are well affiliated with the judicial arm of government. Now, I want to know your thoughts on this recent headline concerning Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. And the Senate gave her a 6-month ban after she brought forth a petition against the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, on sexual harassment. Now, we are in a time where rape, sexual harassment, kidnapping of all sorts, not just for males, but also females, has been very rampant. Now, I'm not sure whether the judicial arm of government can actually help us to uphold that gender equality. Because the Senate is supposed to be one of the most flexible arms of government. But now we've seen a situation whereby she's being banned for bringing forth her petition. And I'm seeing headlines of whether the courts should still entertain the case. And one of the headlines said that her petition against Senator Godswill Akpabio was dead on arrival. I'm not happy with what happened at the Senate, but I want to hear your thoughts about the issue.
Thank you. That's indeed a full load. And I hope I'll get some 10 minutes to answer that. I'll try almost 10 questions. I'll try to give it 1 minute each because the time is fast spent. To Onyebuchi on the Jonaped, I think your issue, what you raised, is very important because we can't talk about inclusion without talking about persons with disability. And I completely agree that when it comes to women and girls with ability, it is a double jeopardy. They suffer the most. I have personally handled, and even through WACO Women's Aid collective cases, you won't believe in one case a traditional ruler defied a deaf and dumb girl. I don't know whether he thought that the girl would not be able to express herself, that this is the man who did this. And we got then that traditional we made sure he was arrested. We made sure that he was prosecuted. Some people even abuse people with mental problem. You had the scandal that happened even in psychiatric hospital recently. That case also came into WACO, and we're handling it. How could somebody who has a mental challenge was taken to a hospital and was raped while in the hospital? I mean, that is institutional neglect. That is really something that should never happen in an institution. And then she got pregnant. Can you even imagine? From being taken by her family into care. So there is a lot that is happening in our society. And those who are more vulnerable, people exploit their vulnerabilities. And we must protect them additionally. So my view is that they require institutional support, government support, additional protection to make sure that persons with disability do not suffer more harm because of their disability, that they are not made more vulnerable because of their disability. I believe even the education system is skewed. It's also discriminatory, because if you put all the persons with disability in one space without thinking of the type of disability and importantly trying to mainstream them, then that also goes against the treaties and also the laws, including Child's Rights Act. I'm glad that some states are making specific laws and that we have at national level a domestication of the UN Convention on Persons with Disability. So we will continue, because even in Igbo, you remember in Igbo land, there was some kind of degrading and the way they did it, but you can notice that that is no longer the same. It has since changed. Perspectives have changed. So we will continue to sensitize the public. Pearl, on your question, the Gen Z, thank you so much. I think we will continue to do the needful, to provide mentorship, to provide guide. It is not easy because we are coming from a culture that emphasizes the two M's, marriage and motherhood. And if you don't do either, or you marry, you don't have, I espouse that, I explained that very well in my paper. They don't care whether it's the man that is at fault. They will just put the blame on the woman. So it is something that for the younger people, some of them may not be as tolerant as their mothers and their grandmothers. But then we need to have this conversation, because we still need stability of families, because family is the basic unit of a society. And we don't want a breakdown at that level, because it's going to rub off on even the children, on every other thing in the society. Again, family provides support system. What we had, I use myself as an example. I got married while in the university. I had 3 children, and I always tell people, I never missed a single class, and I came top of my class, and then I finished, I even went abroad to study. And I left my children, and my husband is late now. He was a medical doctor, and he was supportive. And I achieved all that I needed, because if I didn't have a supportive husband, it would not be. I've had conversation, even with my female colleagues then. And some will say, you're just very lucky. I say, no. I say, how do you start your conversation? Some couldn't even be allowed to attend maybe like law teachers conference. And when it comes to assessment, some of them could not make it and had to take even 10 years more to get to a professor, when already some of them were my mates, because they weren't given the opportunity. But we must also realize, that's why we say some men is the way upbringing and biases and suspicion. If a woman goes out, she will go to a hotel, who knows whether men will meet her and all of that. But you have to trust each other, because the same thing can also happen to a man. So the multiple roles and multiple tasks, I know it scares Gen Z. And we are not saying you must be that superwoman. We are pushed to be that superwoman. You have to be yourself. Just work hard, have your focus, remember your purpose, and try to achieve your potential. And don't allow someone to limit or to define you and to define your career and what you will achieve. So the question by the LOSA president, are there any recent reforms yes, there are a lot, but when it comes to inheritance, I would disappoint. Not many. Many laws have not touched on that. Especially no national law with regard to inheritance. But again, issues around customary Islamic law are often left to the state, and they are excluded from the exclusive legislative list. But the issue is that we have the Violence Against Persons Protection Prohibition Law, and also Act of the federal government and 35 states of the Federation It doesn't provide exactly for inheritance right, but there are provisions that we can still use. The one that directly provides for that is what we call Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill. Today, I led women, and large number of women from across the state, to State House of Assembly. And we're asking them to enact Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill as part of ways to accelerate action for women. We know also that the court has pronounced upon this, and in Ukeja and Ukeja, we know that we can say that the president, judicial president, is that women have a constitutional right to inherit property and should not be discriminated against because of their sex. In fact, Mojeku and Mojeku, during the time of Nikki Toby, when he was in the Court of Appeal here, I was also part of the case. I went. Before then, after Beijing, we had a pre-Beijing conference under Women in Nigeria, and I was the coordinator of Women in Nigeria then, at Main Hall, Enugu. By then, Justice Nikki Toby of blessed memory had given judgment in Onwu Chekwa and Onwu Chekwa that upheld customary law where women were treated as chattel. And I went to argue with him. I said, my Lord, I think this your judgment is against women's rights, international standard, but being that he has a academic background, he said, please bring me the materials. And I took a lot of materials to him. Beijing Declaration, a lot. In fact, up to the time he died, he said, look, Joy, you taught me a lot that I didn't know. And you could see that when he decided on that Mojeku and Mojeku at the Court of Appeal in 1997 in Enugu, he upheld and gave that beautiful rendition that we don't need to go to Beijing to know that it's God that determines the sex of a child. And it is not for us human beings to decide who should be male or female, and that we should not breach a woman's rights because of... I tell you, I went to see that Mrs. Mojeku in Fegonicha. Then she was in her 90s. If you see, the case went almost 50 years from district magistrate court. Unfortunately, after that Court of Appeal, we celebrated her. Even in Women in Nigeria, we had a big event in Lagos, at Lagos Airport Hotel. We celebrated the judgment, and she passed on a few years after. Do you know that they still took her to Court of Appeal? They still went to Supreme Court. And by that time, Justice Nikki Toby was promoted to Supreme Court. There was a bit of distinction that Supreme Court tried to make in that case because of the Mbeleke family kind of lex setter, the laws that apply on nature with regard to property owned, even though they are from Nnewi, but they lived in Onitsha. And that property was acquired in Onitsha by the husband at Fege Onitsha. So they are saying that Mbeleke family, that under that Onitsha customary law, for if we a collar tenants, that both male or female can inherit. And the court in Supreme Court decided to make that distinction and said that based on Lex Latter, that the Supreme Court and Justice Nikki Toby ought not to have gone to declare Oliepe customary court of Nnewi days, because it wasn't the Oliepe that was really in contention. But importantly, she finally won at Supreme Court. But then it was her daughter, Caroline, that was used to substitute because she had passed on. But how could people, this is a nephew, fighting this woman all the way to that time, And then that's why UKJ that came in 2014 was very important, because the Mojeku was 2004. It established clearly that a woman have a right to inheritance. So on the question of recent happenings, Igbo women capabilities, and what we are saying, should women remain in abusive marriage? It's true that they know that Igbo women value marriage because of the orientation and upbringing, and that we are the ones that can remain in a very bad marriage. But we are telling people that they should not be Osinachi. You remember Osinachi? And that we don't want women to die in silence. That they must speak out. That they must break the culture of silence. That they must report violence. And I tell you, they are reporting. Cases Wako handle every year. We handle a lot of cases, thousands of cases. And we also are interested in long-term, lasting relationship of families. And we will do mediation to bring husband and wife together. And you see, whenever a woman just texted me because somebody contacted me on her behalf. She said, I went to Wako, they've invited me and my husband on Monday. And she's feeling a bit of relief. You know, that invitation that they've externalized and they are talking of custody. And once you have other parties that can mediate, we mediate. There was a case that was so terrible. The woman even fainted at police station. They were calling me. They said the NBA president said they must find it's Ngozi Ezeilo that he knows that will handle this case. I'm telling you, it was like police came from Lagos that they have the mandate to take this woman and her children back to Lagos. That the husband have reported that he kidnapped her own children, 2 girls. And they refused. The girls and their mother were at police station. The woman fainted. And they refused to take her to hospital. She was almost dying. She was finally taken to Niger Foundation and everything. And Wakon intervention, we said, you're not going to take her and the children, not in this state. And that we want to know what's going on. But you know, finally, even the man flew from abroad and everything. And this problem started from abroad. And then she ran with the 2 children and 2 girls and came back home. Finally, do you know that 2 of them reconciled? Few days after, in this Enugu state, before we called. And the lawyer that was. So it ended in peace. And we were happy. Because that's what we want. But again, people must also report abusive relationship. Because sometimes some men, even women also do false reports. Let me tell you, there was one woman that came to Wako. She brought pipe. She brought everything that the husband used to batter her. By the time we called the man, I've never seen somebody wept. You know, he wept so deeply, knelt down and almost said, if I use any of this on this woman, may it not be. I said, don't swear, go further. And it was clear that the woman has been hearing Wako. Then we used to do this drama on ESBS. And he just thought that once he goes to Wako, tell them her own side of story, single story, and then we'll come and arrest the man and maybe put the man away. Who knows for what she wanted the man to be put away. But we now say, no, that's not wrong. And we referred her to our psychologist, and they started talking and unraveling. And just to see that how did you come by all this fabrication of this kind of falsehood? So some people, and then you find other things. And that also, there are ones who report their wife and say, look, I think there must be something, going on. Because anything I do is, so we deal with all. Men are reporting. If you see our report analysis for 2024, how many men, any Wako lawyer here, in the one we did press conference last, there were over 32-something men that reported in 2024. So that's a good development. For those who are advocating for Macol, we don't need Macol to know that we take care of families as well. Men can report, and we are interested in the long-lasting relationship of family. But we will not tolerate zero tolerance on violence against women and girls. Mr. Joseph and Agolo, Igbo women as wife, daughters, inheritance, I think I've dealt with it, so I wouldn't go into this. And if you have further issue, you can meet me. We can discuss bilaterally when I leave here. Chief Chukwuka Udemezwe, attorney, thank you so much for raising the issue, because this has become a problem. Because some people say, Igbo women, when they are here in Nigeria, they are very obedient, they do everything, just bring them up, bring them abroad. They will now notice the rights of women, and I think also lack of orientation. Because if you see the extent our men goes to shield their imported wives from Nigeria, from socializing with others, from even mixing up, with the fear that they will turn out to become bad or want to divorce them. You see that is not necessary. If you people have openness in that relationship, and it's not based on any fraudulent, and it's based on mutual trust and respect, that it will not get to that. The phenomenon for which I've been invited, and I've spoken in many states in the US, following deaths of women, what they call registered nurse, that some people go, and I see when they do rush, the university system, now everybody wants to read nursing. And nursing is one of the most difficult courses to get now at the university, especially University of Nigeria. And men now are moving in this profession, talking about segregation. Once any profession is lucrative, and they now notice that you make a lot of money and dollar power, pound sterling power, men are also competing to study nurse. But the thing is that, do you know that there are people that arrange marriages for these nurses? So if you arrange marriages based on this thing, please go and find me a nurse, because you want a nurse that will come and then will start earning big money, working 24 hours, and when she gets her freedom and say, I'm not going to be your slave. And for some men, they will take their money, come back here, chase women, live big life, enjoy their life, and then the woman is suffering. And then when she now protests, it becomes that she's no longer. So I've had to talk. One time in Baltimore, in Maryland, in Sacramento, about this phenomenon, that in the Igbo too should stop it. Domestic violence as something they were very common amongst Igbos. And in Kekasin job with this domestic helps, the kind of abuse, but this thing, the bad, and we need to train and teach our daughters. Tell ourselves, even as women, to refrain from the kind of, I don't know, it's degrading, torture, abuse of house helps. It must stop. And some is insecurity. As if to say they are fighting for you with your husband. So we should be able to, if you don't trust a man you're married to, you better leave the man. So these are things that causes all this problem. So we want to continue to preach openness. There should be, migrants should have this kind of orientation when new wives come. Things are not like that, too, but some have gone this way and divorced, and later they are regretting. I know some marriages, women have done some things and they felt they have a right here, and they used it to intimidate the man, and the man is the one to leave the house. Probably this man have also labored to build that place. Eventually, it will catch up with them. So we should be able to discuss these things properly. To the final question, was it the final question or the second to the last? By my chairman, the Enugu Bar Association President, Ezeilo, thank you again for coming to support and solidarity and identifying with us. I think the issue, balancing, sometimes is a delicate balancing. But it's not that but because things are really skewed or heavily weighted against women, that's why you see me taking more protective measure and leaning towards protection of women. Even us, we see women as weaker sex. You see how many women can beat up their husband and make them cry and give them injury. It's difficult, maybe less than 5%. So it's again, sometimes it's physiology, sometimes it's this, but that's why we tend to say, because a woman, again, because of the emphasis on marriage and motherhood, even some men threaten their wives, I will send you home, you must go back to, and you see them because they dread being called divorcee. They dread being called, so they manage. There are ones, because of children, they can take anything, but we tell them, please, don't just take anything and die in silence. Remember that you have your own life to live. And you have to love yourself. And preservation of your life should be of paramount importance. Because if you want mad and there's somebody that gives birth to you, I see some men come to report because their daughter, they never even knew their daughter was a victim of domestic violence. And you see the pain they carry, that their daughter was going through this type of thing without their knowledge. I don't think any man wants to see the daughter suffer in that way. In the same way, that your wife is somebody's daughter. And I tell you, violence against women or gender violence or spousal beating, it doesn't know any class. We've had reports from medical doctors, from female lawyers, from professional women, from bankers who are also victims. And the same way also men can complain that even if women do not beat them, that the emotional harm of violence, because of the way they talk to them and talk down to them, constitute violence. And we recognize that there is emotional violence because of the way maybe you talk to your husband as well. So the final question on job segregation, yes, But you can see if teaching job is no longer lucrative, is overpopulated by women. If judges and what their pay is no longer, is overpopulated by women. And men opt out of any job quickly that they know is not giving money. But once there is one to make money, you see them hopping. And they hop in without that gender segregation of job. The final question by the students of the University of Nigeria, is on the sexual harassment. We need I've been advocating for this for more than 20 years. I think I'm one of the first. By 2007, I've developed sexual harassment policies for educational institutions and for workplaces. I involved the Trade Union Congress. I involved Nigerian Labour Congress. I involved NUC. NUC brought in vice chancellors. We developed this policy. I involved National Human Rights Commission. We sent it around. Even the universities adopt this policy. It becomes a problem. In fact, last week I was evaluating a project as a consultant to GIZ on sextortion that was implemented in some universities, tertiary institutions in Lagos, Uyo, and Abuja. And you see that some institutions still don't have that. And the voices of the voiceless, because we're even talking about people in privileged positions in Senate that can speak for themselves. What about students that are harassed by lecturers? And also some lecturers have reported that students harass them as well. Or some students are ready to do anything to sort themselves out. And we know that as a fact. So, and any false accusation, we tell people they shouldn't be afraid of sexual harassment law or policy. Because there are safeguards for everybody, for men and women, including for those who may make a false allegation. Because for some, women are always liars. When it comes to rape, when it comes to anything, some will tell you that women can lie about anything. But I don't agree. But the issue is that we must, in big places, in small places, we need to protect everyone. And that's what matters. And for the cases in court, we may not comment then, of course, because they are sub judice. There have been a lot of action. There are their rules. Their rules may appear unjust, but since they've collectively not challenged it, we see how the court will interpret some of the rules, especially about the one that petition must not be presented by the person who has been wronged. But this is actually clearly in their rules, and I've read it. So if that is in their rules, this may be an extreme case where we felt that she must give an audience and that there may not be anyone who is willing to take it up to her. But it is in their rules, and they have to first amend their rules. So the issue is that we need to know that sexual and gender-based violence, there is impunity of that at all levels, and that many women still cannot speak out about their victimization. Some women cannot speak out, and we are concerned about women without voice and how we can raise the voice of such women to make sure that they do not suffer in vain. It is very important. But we must continue to push for sexual harassment policy. ICPC have done quite a number of cases, and they have the mandate to investigate cases of sexual harassment. Even the National Industrial Court, they have also handled and decided some cases on sexual harassment, both in workplace and then also but mainly in workplace for National Industrial Court. So we need to explore, and they need to use all of these avenues. And accountability is important, and accountability for everyone involved. And fair trial, because everyone, whether the accused person, the person who is the suspect, and the person making the allegation, you have your day in court to prove your case. You alleges, you must also prove. That is important. So let's watch how, I think that's the final question. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. It's taking quite some time.
Please, if you will oblige me, can we give Prof a standing ovation, please? Please, please, I plead with you. We've been on since 4 o'clock, and I know it's beyond 2 hours. From your speech to our panel section, Prof, thank you so much. The fact that we'll have you in body is a history. You know, I was telling Ifani, what did you do that I have not done? So, we're so happy we have you in person, in body. You know, when we were reading your citation, people were like, if this person is finally going to be a human being, let us see. Thank you. Can you sit down, please? So thank you so much, Prof. We're highly honored to have you today. It's a privilege to share from your wealth of knowledge, and we know you will keep standing strong, even beyond your 100. Thank you so much to the audience for being very interactive and participatory at the same time. Please, Center for Memories, can we step down?
Not yet. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you once again, Ma. Frankly, I didn't think the ovation was, I don't know, I don't think it did justice to what we've experienced this evening. The moderated session, for me, held so much, and we cannot really be grateful enough to her. When she spoke, something stood out, many things stood out, experience and passion. And the latter, for me, quite frankly, is even more important. So there are many people in the CSO industry who are distinguished names. Even here, I think I saw Barrister Ngozi. Oh, there she is. And these are household names, if you like, in human rights, women's rights, and, you know, champions of equity in the society. Yes, FIDA chairman, please, Akamachidera, yes, and then many others, right? And these are people who have given their soul to the business of empowerment to women, promoting human rights, and, you know, furthering the cause of equality and equity in society. And what stood out for me when Prof was speaking during the panel session was not just the wealth of experience, but the fact that this is a person who embodies a deep sense of balance in what she does. We didn't hear her speak about women's rights as a monolith, as something that should be concentrated on, and, you know, nobody cares about the men. She tried to balance it. In her answers, you saw that she is simply an advocate of human beings first, before women. And I think that this is something that we really need to speak to, because often when women's rights and, you know, equality or equity is mentioned, there is that misunderstanding that it prefers or advances the cause of a gender, you know, to the detriment of the other. But Prof has spoken in ways that tells us or convinces us that the fight is really for the both genders. So once again, Prof, we appreciate. Thank you so much. That was such a rich conversation. And we cannot thank the moderator, Mrs. Onyemama, who is also a household name, if you like, in, you know, CSO, women's rights, champions of equality, for that excellent. So much. Also, those who were here earlier would know that she took the mentorship session, which is the session that precedes Nkata, and it was nothing short of extraordinary. The children were, the participants, you know, students from different secondary schools were completely grateful, you know, to have been a part of that. So without further ado, I will invite, as is customary with the center, we have a bit of presentation for the moderator and the speaker, and I will invite Dr. Ken Ike Okere to lead a presentation of a small token from the center to the moderator. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Dear Prof, it's good to see you again. All right. Okay. All right. My task is simple, and that is to present gifts. And this gift is Center for Memories Foundation and Ford Foundation. Nkata Umu Ibe, maka ta nechi, is hereby presented to the moderator of this program. We want to say thank you very much.
I will also invite a friend of the Center for Memories, Chief Ben Etiaba, to do us the honor in presenting a token to the speaker.
Prof, I actually feel delighted and I feel humbled to be standing before you, making this presentation. Unfortunately, I missed the first part of your lecture because today witnessed the traditional burial rites for Dr. Chu Okongwu, with the former finance minister. And myself being from this community, I had to be there. I felt I had to be there. First, from the Center for Memories, for this distinguished lecture and the most distinguished lecturer, you spoke today on Nwanyị Bụ Ife and also Nwanyị Bụ Ife. And if you know my family, you'll understand why I'm excited that we have Prof speaking today. My mother wishes you well. She's in Abuja today, otherwise she may have made it to Enugu just to be here to listen to you. Exactly. Prof, it is most wonderful, like I say, to have you here. A woman of straw, as the Englishman would say, a woman of immense gravitas, accelerating inclusive action for the development of Ala Ìgbò. Dalu, Prof. Nwanyị Bụ Ife. And to also say this, I have been interested in a particular case of domestic violence against my staff. And when this happened, I called Prof a few years ago. She told me exactly what to do. We did that, and we're making some headway there. We want to see families together. But I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the battles you fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. On behalf of the center, the token, and I think my job is done. Thank you. Yes. Yes. This is usually the traditional way of ending all of the events here. Somebody is asked to come and say thank you. Usually the center will choose someone who's not directly with the center. And I'm here to do the honors. And I'll begin by saying thank you to the center. I'll begin by saying thank you to you, because every month we come together here to listen to a distinguished speaker. And you can bear witness to what you heard today, that since Nkata started, I caught the last session, this probably will be one of the best, would have been one of the best sessions of Nkata Umu Ibe. And I'll tell you why. Ife melon Nkata aburo so Ife the distinguished speaker who. Ife the more important about Nkata Umu Ibe with the interactive session. Maka no eba goji webulu Nkata ka ebia eba. I witnessed all of it, and I was quite enriched. I've said thank you to the center. Prof, let me use the opportunity to once again say thank you to you, and to say thank you to the NBA chairman, one of the predecessors of my brother, Jude Ezegui, that we lost, unfortunately, last year. Exactly, very terrible. I want to thank our partners, especially Ford Foundation, for the support and for ensuring that the series continues. We have other partners. We have Afia TV, we have Urban Radio, we have Dream FM, Signature TV, News Agency of Nigeria. Maureen is here. Gada. This is newsworthy. This is newsworthy. Whether sponsored or not, I'm sure that a major media in Nigeria will be interested anytime Professor Ezeilo, Joy Ezeilo, Ngozi Ezeilo, Ngozi like my mother, anytime she speaks. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and I learned something new today, life bencher as well. Man, a heart full of feathers. We cannot appreciate God enough for her life. But the biggest thank you will now go to the audience, because without you, it wouldn't have happened. Can we put our hands together for ourselves? And we have quite a lot of following online, because with Nkata, what goes on within the four walls are important, but what is experienced online even more important. Because globally, people are watching. Even I myself will go back and stream and get the early part of the Nkata that I missed. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to say, can we all come up here for a group photograph session? And we thank God. And we put our hands together again for our most distinguished speaker.